Hello riders, it's Josh from CycleHunters.com, and today we're going to have a little bit of a special video coming. This is going to be hopefully the first video in a long list of videos to come for our ride and review series. Now, the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have a coin flip and we're going to see who rides the bike. We're going to give you guys a little bit of some insight on that ride, give you an idea of how it rides, how it sounds, all those good things. And then also at the very end, we're going to have a little bit of a roundtable discussion to sort of just wrap it all up. And so that hopefully if you are somebody that's going to make a purchase on one of the bikes that we're reviewing, it's going to give you some good insight as to if you can make that purchase or if you're going to do, if that bike's going to fit you and do what you want it to do. So Matt is going to do the coin flip.
It's official.
He's got the official coin flip here.
Heads,
tails. All right, here we go.
Called in the air.
Heads.
It is tails.
So that means you get to ride the bike.
I get to ride the bike. See? Tails. I win.
So
I'm going to go saddle up.
Stay tuned and hopefully you enjoy it. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe and also ding the notification bell. So we'll see you on the other side.
What is going on, guys? CycleHunters.com here with a beautiful Honda VT1300 CX. They call this one the Fury, guys. And this is going to be our first ride and review video in a series of ride and review videos. That's right, guys. Anytime we get a motorcycle in, we are going to talk a little bit about it and then take it out on the road and give you our opinion of how the motorcycle performs out on the road. And the very first bike we're doing is this beautiful 2011 Honda Fury. Now, when this bike hit the scene back in 2010, it was Honda's rendition of what they felt a chopper should be. And quite honestly, guys, I think they hit the mark pretty well. I mean, you've got the raked front end on there, the nice big tire on the front, nice wide fat tire on the rear. And one of the key features to this bike that I particularly like is the fact that it doesn't scream Honda. I mean, literally, guys. You've got Honda here, Honda written there, and then if you come over to the other side, you've only got Honda written here on the side cover and here on the engine. That's it. Couple of places, and if you took these badges off of the side cover here, you really wouldn't know what it is unless you knew what it was. And it only has one spot on the bike, and this is kind of a color matched thing where it says Fury on the back. So if you didn't know what this bike was, you'd have to do some searching to figure it out. And this is actually a sticker that is on the plastic. It's actually not painted over, so you could actually remove this sticker and nobody would know what the bike is at all. So it's a pretty cool looking bike. I worked for a Honda shop back when these first came out in 2010, and I couldn't wait to get out and ride one. And well, that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go suit up and we'll see you out on the road. Alrighty, guys, so we are going to be going off to the gas station first. I gotta put gas in this. This one was pretty low. So we'll just first of all start it up so you guys can hear how it sounds. Keys in a really easily accessible place here, right between the cylinder heads. Just turn it on, and these are fuel injected, so they start up without too much problem. And outside here, these things just have that look to them, man. Just a nice custom cruiser, very simple look to them that I really, really like. Alrighty, so we're going to throw a leg over the bike here. Just go over the layout here. Controls are very simple to access, very easy to understand. On the left side here, you just have your high beam, low beam, left turn signal, right turn signal, push to cancel, horn. And I think this one has an aftermarket horn on it because it's a pretty loud horn. And then on the right side here, you just have your cutoff switch and your starter. And that's it. I mean, very basic setup up here. And the handlebar reach, like if you look at this bike off of it, it looks like it's going to be an uncomfortable motorcycle, and it just simply is not that. Nice comfortable reach to the bars. I'm relaxed. I don't feel like I'm extended out. I've got a nice comfortable reach to the handlebars, and the levers are in a good position, easy to access. You know, you got your front brake lever here, clutch over here, throttle there, the go stick. Simple dashboard's got 2 trips, a clock, and an odometer, and that's about all you need. Speedometer, odometer, clock if you want it, but they really, Honda, like I said, did a good job of keeping this very simple and custom looking, so there's nothing cluttering up this view up here. So as you can see, the low fuel light is on. That's where we're headed now, to the gas station. Well, let's go. So the clutch pull on this bike is very light, very easy to pull in the clutch, and clutch engages really strong. You know, it engages at a decent spot on the handlebar. It's not too far out, not too far in when it engages. And if you've ever ridden a chopper before, which I would say this closely relates to is a chopper. If you've ever ridden a chopper before, you know that those motorcycles are a hardtail. Now, if you don't know what a hardtail is, that's a bike with basically very little suspension in the front and no suspension in the rear of the motorcycle. So going down the road, it's like you're riding on a board. This bike is not a hardtail. It is actually a soft tail, which means it has suspension in the rear, and actually it does have really good suspension in the front. I mean, it's an old suspension layout with the non-inverted fork, but it soaks up the bumps, and it seems to be pretty flickable going down the road. Gonna come in here and stop for fuel, and then we'll get right back to it. Not a very big gas tank. That low fuel light was on and it only took 2.5 gallons, so not a huge gas tank. Put our cap back on and we'll go ride some more. Alrighty, let's get back out onto the road here. Now this bike is rated at about 57 horsepower, about 60 horsepower we'll round up. But where this bike really excels is the fact that it has a decent amount of torque. Now I don't know the torque number, but I'm going to say it's at least close to 100 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, being a 1300cc engine, you would almost assume that probably about 100 foot-pounds of torque. But, you know, revving it up, it's got plenty of power. It'll get you going down the road without an issue. I mean, you'll be breaking the speed limit in no time. Handling wise, I mean, honestly guys, if you know anything about choppers, they don't handle very well. They go in a straight line good, which this bike actually feels really stable at straight line speeds. And we'll take it up through a couple of turns here. That little turn back there didn't feel too bad, so seems to have pretty decent ground clearance, which is something you fight in a long stretched low bike. So Honda did do a pretty good job of keeping you know, the decent handling characteristics in this motorcycle. So we got a turn coming up here, and yeah, we'll see how it goes through here. Now we're not going crazy. It's a nice cold day, and I don't want to wreck somebody's potential motorcycle, so we'll keep it easy in the turns. But yeah, it seems to go around the turns. I didn't even feel like I was anywhere close to those foot pegs touching the ground. And, you know, this thing cruises. 5-speed transmission. Shifts are butter smooth. Don't have any issues shifting on this. Goes through corners just fine. I have all the confidence in the world laying this thing into a corner. I don't feel like it's wobbling or wavy. You know, pretty solid in the corner. The exhaust on this thing sounds awesome. It is a Vance & Hines exhaust system, and it sounds really good. Nice and throaty like you want it to. But this bike is very smooth. The power delivery on this is very smooth, very linear, which leads me to believe, you know, it's got a pretty decent amount of torque, and it does a really nice torque curve, very broad. Just the way it puts that power down. You think you would want a 6-speed in this, but it doesn't seem to be too bad having the 5-speed in here. I don't have any issues with that 5-speed. We're in 5th gear now, and if I want to go, it'll go. Or if I want to cruise, it'll cruise. So we'll actually give it a little bit taken off here. Get on it a little. I mean, if you're merging onto a highway, that's going to be plenty of acceleration there. Or if you're just putting down a back road, then cruises just like a dream, man. It really is a nice, smooth motorcycle. Like I said, I don't feel like I have to adjust my riding style to suit this motorcycle. It handles anything I'm going to do on just your basic cruise. Now, I'm not going aggressively through these corners, but like I said, you go on a decent ride with somebody and they get a little aggressive, I don't think that you're going to have too much of an issue keeping up with somebody. Now, I don't think you're going to be able to keep up with a sport bike rider, but you know, you get somebody on a nice standard motorcycle, I don't think you're going to be running into issues where this thing's bottoming out or scraping the ground going around corners. And I don't think it's going to have a tough time keeping up with maybe your faster rider friends out there. I mean, this thing's doing just fine. It seems to have power at any RPM in any gear. nice bike, nice running bike. Like I said, when these came out, I really liked the Fury. If I had, you know, a couple extra grand just burning a hole in my pocket, this would be my Fury. But one of you guys out there can buy it and enjoy it. But even if you're just kind of lugging it up through the gears, it putts around just fine. And the seating position is nice. It's comfortable. I'm in a nice relaxed position. Again, like I said, when you sit on here, you're not overly extended. Now I'm about 5'11", so if that gives you any reference as to, you know, height wise. I think somebody shorter might have some issues, but somebody taller, you know, this might be suited better for somebody taller. I think if you were a little shorter, you might have some type of issues reaching the controls, reaching the footrests and the hand controls without, you know, being in an extended position. But me, myself, you know, 5'11", and I'm perfectly comfortable on this motorcycle. I've hit some pretty substantial bumps on this test ride, and the bike soaks them up without an issue. I mean, I haven't bottomed this thing out. It just soaks up the bumps, and you know, it just keeps on going. I think you could probably benefit from a windshield, maybe. Just something like a wind deflector just to get that big rush of air off of you. I mean, it's a cold day today. It's probably in the 30s, and I'm riding. I'm cold, but I feel a lot of that wind kind of hit me right in the chest. And I think if you had a little wind deflector there, that would make it, you know, that would be that little extra bit. But yeah, like I said, I mean, for being a bigger bike, and as long as this bike is, you know, it's not very difficult to get this thing to rock side to side. It is pretty flickable. So don't let the size fool you. This thing can handle some pretty decent terrain. Honda usually does a good job at that, though. They take an idea and they make it a Honda idea. You know, it's really kind of a nod to the NSX, if you will. You know, everybody in the supercar department back in the early 90s said, you can't make a supercar reliable. It has to be something that's constantly worked on, and it has to be super expensive. And Honda said, we're going to make the NSX. And everybody had to listen up and follow suit. I think a lot can be said about this Fury, where the chopper had to be this aggressive, brash thing that you only take out for maybe 50 miles at a time, and it's uncomfortable, and it's got to be air cooled. And Honda basically said, look guys, we can make it dead reliable, fuel injected, and comfortable to ride. And I think, you know, they really did a good job with the Fury in kind of hitting all those boxes. Only downside to it, guys, is the fact that they should have released this bike sooner than they did. I mean, the chopper, custom choppers, was out in about 2008, you know, 2006 to 2008 type era, and I think they missed the mark with the release, but maybe they're just taking time to perfect it, because if you want to get something that has all the qualities of a chopper but the reliability of a Honda, then really the Fury's definitely a bike that should be on your list. question is 57 horsepower enough to do a burnout? Let's find out. Apparently not.
Almost.
It's hard.
Well, we got our answer.
It probably is, but I don't want to break it. Hello, riders!
And action! So what are we talking about here?
Talking about the Fury I just
Talking
rode.
about the Honda Fury 2012.
I like that
Oh,
bike.
I'm sorry.
2011.
It's a 2011.
BT
My bad.
1300 CX.
You bought it.
I bought it and I don't even remember what year it was.
We go through so many of them, so.
I guess it's not a bad problem to have.
No.
I guess
No.
it's not a bad habit.
No.
So initial impressions.
I liked it.
Oh yeah.
Smooth bike.
Oh yeah.
Very smooth bike.
Mhm.
I think I said it a couple times in the video.
Yeah. Very
I
smooth.
like it.
I mean, as far as choppers go with what Honda was building, I mean, it's a killer bike.
Well, Honda is not known for kind of stepping out on the edge here and building things that are outside of the norm of what they consider as like a regular street bike. Even with the race bikes, you got to build them to be a race bike. So for them to build a chopper, that is, in terms of what I think is the most chopper-looking production chopper on the market, that's a big deal.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's definitely the most chopper-looking chopper on the market. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no doubt that. I mean, you put that up against anything else. I mean, it's a Honda first and foremost.
So you get reliability.
Reliability.
Absolutely reliability for sure.
Yep.
A lot of reliability. I mean, and that thing is like just walking up to that bike initially, and you look at that tank. The way that tank is sculpted, I think, is probably the calling card for that bike, in my opinion, because it doesn't look Honda.
Yeah.
You have to get up on the case to look at this.
And the way you sit down in it, you're down in it, and it rolls so easily, and it's so well balanced. It just does not feel like a chopper.
No.
When you
And
look
when
at
you
that
look-
and then you sit on it, it feels like two different bikes.
And I brought that up because it really is it's mind blowing.
Right.
It's like how does it look that aggressive?
Right.
And yet you sit on it and you're sitting on a normal motorcycle.
Yeah, in your
I
mind
don't
you're thinking,
understand how
I see a chopper, and you're
rake
thinking
front
back
end,
to rake front end,
you know,
super
8
heavy,
hanger
just,
type
yep.
bars, and it just
Not
isn't.
that at all.
It's like
Right. Yep.
I don't know how Honda does it.
Yeah.
So the thing that's non-chopper is it handles.
It does
It goes
handle.
around a corner.
Right.
It's not a heavy lumbering bike whatsoever, but you actually can handle the machine, and it's quite comfortable and enjoyable to ride.
I wouldn't
Unlike
call
a
it.
chopper.
I say I wouldn't call it perfectly balanced, but
Right.
I wouldn't say that
For
there
what
was
it
a,
is.
Right.
There was a situation where I felt, overwhelmed in a corner. I mean, it went through corners at normal speeds you would go through a corner on.
I would say as choppers go, I would say it is a perfectly balanced chopper compared to everything else.
oh,
hands
absolutely,
down.
yeah.
Hands
But
down.
as far as a bike in
Right.
general, yeah.
We'll look at it in terms of what's out there as competition.
Yeah.
So you have a Yamaha Raider 1900, which is probably at the upper end of the scale.
Mhm.
And we all kind of agree that's sort of a muscle bike, sort of
Yeah.
a chopper. There's
Yeah.
some.
What's
It's
that?
not really the chopper look.
Yeah.
It's got a harder edge, and
Yeah.
it's got a wide. That Raider has a really wide
Yeah.
tire.
Yep.
Well, I do
Right.
appreciate that Honda went with a 200 series, which is a decently wide tire, and for
Mhm.
the time there wasn't really much
Right.
out there. I mean, 2011, they weren't going super crazy like they are now.
Right.
But it handles with that
Yeah.
200 on there.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what you
I
would
think
give
it
up
was a
if you,
smart move on their part.
yeah, if you give
Absolutely.
up, if you go for a bigger, fatter tire, you got to muscle that thing into
Mhm.
the corners to turn it. Whereas this falls in more.
Which puts it in line with a lot of those choppers are what we kind of look at as parade machines, because they're not generally comfortable. You're not really comfortable going at highway speeds for the most part, because there's a little bit of that,
Mhm.
you know,
Well, that's why they always
You got
say
that front
chopper
wheel
run
hanging
on
out there.
alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
They always say choppers run on alcohol because they go from bar to bar to bar to bar.
Right.
It's pretty much it. But this thing here, you fill
Yeah.
a gas tank up and
You can ride it every day.
You can ride that all the way to the beach,
You
no
go
problem.
until you're out of gas.
Yeah,
And then fill it up again and not feel bad about it.
Right.
That's,
Oh, no.
that's the beauty of
Yeah.
it.
right.
Your teeth aren't falling out by the
Right.
time you get to
It's
that
not
next
a
gas
rigid.
station.
You have the suspension. I mean, it
Absolutely.
soaks up the
Right.
bumps. Yeah, you could absolutely ride that bike all day
Oh, yeah.
comfortably.
So not only that, but being it that it's a Honda, it's a production bike, an OEM bike, there's aftermarket out the wazoo for stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that one in particular has the pipes, which sound awesome.
They do
And
sound good.
It kind of completes the look.
Mhm.
So, again, there's no big Honda badge on the side of the tank. So without really knowing what it is right off the bat, you kind of almost think it's a custom. And it
Yeah.
really does look like a custom for Honda to make that. I'll say it over and over again. It really blows my mind. And I'm glad they made it because I think they're great.
And in the day and age of branding your own product, I'm really surprised that Honda went and did not, just put Honda all over that thing.
Minimalized
I thought it was. You'd think at least it would say Honda somewhere in some big capacity.
Right.
It just doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream Honda. You get a couple aftermarket covers for the engine, and you take off the sticker. I mean, they put a sticker on the
On the
fender.
rear.
You know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
literally peel the sticker off,
Right.
and it's a custom chopper if that's what you want it to be.
Yeah, they gave it a very sleek, clean look,
Absolutely.
right down to having the drive shaft the way it is. It almost looks like, it's just one molded piece going back to the wheel, and it just leaves that rear wheel completely open so you can see that rim.
Well, and see, now that's my only real complaint. And again, this is going to be purely from a standpoint where it's my opinion for what I like. And when I look at a chopper and it's that stereotypical chopper or what you think a chopper should look like, choppers don't have shafts.
Right.
And it leaves that space too open. So you almost want to see that belt and the pulley sitting in there, kind of filling up that gap in that space. But again, if that's really my only knock on the bike, that's kind of
But
almost
then those
nothing.
choppers also have a bigger motor and a bigger
Yep.
bigger back tire.
Right.
Where it just want to rip your arms off kind of feel when you get on that gas. And this motor doesn't quite have that. And that would be my downfall with this bike, is I feel like it needs more motor and a little bit fatter back tire to make it feel like that true 100% top of the line chopper. But then if you have that fatter back tire, you're losing on the performance and the handling of
Right.
it. So I think that's where Honda,
Definitely.
they were trying to find that happy medium when they were building it.
Well, I guarantee you they wanted to put the 1800 in there.
Yeah.
But what I've heard through Honda and talking to Honda reps, because when this came out, I worked for a Honda dealership, and we saw this before they launched it, and you ask all the questions like, why didn't you put an 1800 in it? Because clearly they had the VTX 1800 at
Right.
the same time this came out. They
Right.
very easily could have put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the response is Honda wanted to keep it so clean and smooth looking up front that they wanted to disguise the radiator between the frame rails, and doing that made the radiator too small to effectively cool an 1800cc engine.
Right.
So literally, because they wanted it to have that look, they kind of shot themselves in the foot
Right.
and not being able to put a bigger engine in there.
Right, because that makes sense, because you would have had to have that bigger, fatter radiator
more
hanging out
cooling,
there. Right.
Because they're not air-cooled bikes, and to design a new engine and to go through all that process,
Right.
that's a lot.
Right.
I mean,
But for your general everyday kind of person that wants to ride a bike,
they're not worried about it.
Most people
Right.
aren't looking for 1800 cc's.
Right. You don't need that. You
No,
truly
you-
don't need that.
No, and there was a time when the big bikes were 1100s,
Right.
Yeah.
and that would have been considered insane.
Right.
And that's got plenty of torque.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
That's
It does.
going to pull in any gear you
Right.
need it to.
Right.
Like I said, riding it, you rarely have to downshift that motorcycle. You only
Yeah.
do it because you want to make some noise
Right.
on it. Is really the only.
And
reason.
that's a great thing to do anyway.
It really
Right.
is. You find a tunnel, and that's a great
Yep,
tunnel
yep.
maker,
Yep.
noise maker.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. I mean, for me, and my overall is, I'm going to say it's a 9, because you don't see anything like that out there. My only gripe and hit on it is really a personal thing,
Mhm.
and that's just a cosmetic issue.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the other side of that, you get the reliability and I don't have to service it as much. It's a shaft, so there's not anything you really have to do. So, I mean, there's give and take with that. So, yeah, I mean, I give it a 9.
Yeah, I would give it an 8, only because I'm looking for, if I'm looking at that as actually, the chopper, I would want a little more power. Just that bigger motor that all these choppers have. Because every one of these choppers, that's what they're all about. It's having this huge motor and this huge back tire.
It's the image, yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Somebody sees you on a chopper and
do
a burnout.
So yeah, right. You pull up to somebody with that, and it doesn't quite have that kick that the other ones have. That's its only downfall, but they did it for a reason that way. Because you're sacrificing when you do those things to give the bigger motor and the bigger back tire. You're sacrificing handling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it had like that Raider 1900 push behind it,
yeah.
I would give that a 10.
Yeah, I'm stuck at a hard 8 myself.
Yeah.
Only because it would be more of a second bike for me. It's just a good looking motorcycle, and I wouldn't want to ride it and get it dirty.
Right.
That's its only downfall.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking bike, and it's something I wouldn't ride every day because of that reason.
Right.
Something I ride every day is going to be ratty. It's going to be dirty more often than it's clean. So something like that would be a second bike, something to show off. Go to some of the bike events. On that, because believe it or not, people still don't know that thing exists.
Right.
Yeah.
It really didn't sell a whole lot of them, and if you go to a bike show with that all shined up, people will think you built a motorcycle in your garage.
They'll be surprised to find out it's a Honda.
You could almost pass off as building it yourself if you do switch out a few of those things and get the Honda badges off there. So you could have this custom bike. And so I think an 8.
But one thing we didn't touch on is bang for the buck. The money you pay for that, I mean, that is a 10 all day long with style, performance,
absolutely.
and the money. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be dropping in value. I think they're going to be coming up in value
because there weren't that many out there. Yeah, I think absolutely that'll just increase.
I mean, it's literally a production chopper,
right?
And which are two things that
a reliable production
chopper,
which
right?
That doesn't really exist.
No, it doesn't. And the choppers that we've seen that come in the shop, shaken apart as they come back.
Yeah.
So there's things that you
not to mention
never
you
worry
can't
about.
Find half of them are out of business.
Right.
You can't find the parts.
Right. It's Honda.
Well, most of them were built out of a catalog anyway.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? This you can go onto Honda's website,
and
order parts right from the dealership.
And not to mention the technology that they put behind it with the Honda name, as far as
being fuel injected,
designing it and everything.
Hands down,
liquid
being fuel injected,
liquid
cooled. I mean, it's going to run forever.
They weren't just taking a frame and plopping a motor into it. They did a lot of engineering behind it.
So I mean, it's safe to say everybody approves of that bike.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind owning one.
Oh, absolutely. I'd own one.
Yeah,
you own one.
I do own one. I own multiple.
Well, not for long though.
Not for long.
This thing is going to be last long here.
I think once it starts to warm up out there, I think that thing will be flying off the shelves.
I don't doubt that for a second.
For sure.
Well,
cool.
So, until the next video. Well, before that, make sure that you hit like and subscribe. Ding the notification bell. We're always uploading content. We're going to try to do a lot more of these ride and reviews and talk around a little bit about the bike so that people that aren't really sure as to what the bike's about and maybe you're looking to buy one, this is probably going to help you. We at least hope it's going to help you make a little bit more of a better informed decision about that machine. So, until the next ride video, happy riding.
Birthday. Wait, what?
I don't know. Happy riding.